Welcome to an American Indian College Fund event. We are the nation's largest and highest rated American Indian nonprofit organization, providing scholarships and support for thousands of Native students every year. We're glad that you joined us and hope that you'll discover other student resources and events at collegefund.org/Native Pathways. From informative webinars to culturally relevant Native student materials, you can find all that you need to find success in high school and beyond. You can also sign up to receive monthly updates filled with scholarship and internship opportunities at collegefund.org/stay connected, and follow us on our social media platforms at Native Pathways for daily posts with even more opportunities and resources you can use. You can always reach our friendly support staff at scholarships@collegefund.org or at 1-800-426-8900. During this event, you will be muted, but please open up the chat window in Zoom to ask questions and contribute to the discussion. Thanks for your attention. Now let's get started.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Bledsoe. I'm the Student Engagement and Communications Manager at the American Indian College Fund. We've set this up tonight as a regular meeting, not as a webinar, as many of you guys have been a part of in the past, mainly because we want you to be able to ask questions and interact a little bit with our panelists. If you do look at the top right of your grid pattern, you can always select speaker view, and that will allow you to kind of see full screen whichever panelist or staff member is speaking at the time. But we do want to allow you to unmute yourselves, to ask questions, to interact, and to learn more about the basically this opportunity that we have through the American Indian College Fund. So tonight we're going to be talking about the American Indian Law Scholarship. This is a fully funded scholarship opportunity to attend Harvard Law School. This is only provided to one student every cycle that we have. So our very first recipient, who's actually going to be sharing with us tonight, will be completing his time at Harvard Law, and so opening up the application and accepting another awardee to continue at Harvard Law. So the way it's going to work is I'm going to work as kind of a moderator or host. I'm going to bring a few different people on. One person is a staff member at the College Fund. Another is a community coordinator at the Harvard University American Indian program, or excuse me, Native American program. And then we'll also have a little conversation with our scholarship recipient, who will be finishing up, Chance Fletcher. So I want to start with Daniel, who is our scholarships coordinator at the American Indian College Fund. He's going to speak more specifically about the opportunity and how to apply and what some of the scoring is like on our end. And then we'll get a chance to meet Chance and speak with him a little bit. And then Jason, who is with Harvard University Native American program, will talk more specifically about the requirements for Harvard Law and what things look on their side. And then we'll take questions from you. You can type in questions at any time in the chat. I'll be monitoring that. And we'll bring those to light towards the end of our time. So Daniel, you can take over from here and tell us a little bit about the program.
Sure. Let me see. I'm going to try to share my screen here and present some information for you. Can you see that presentation now, David?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, my name is Daniel Sauvé. I'm the scholarships coordinator at the American Indian College Fund. And I got my email address there, dsauve@collegefund.org. So anytime throughout the process, you're filling out the application, or you have any questions about our programs, you can email me there at dsauve@collegefund.org. Let me show you, we're going to start here at collegefund.org/Harvard Law. That'll give you some details about the program. And the application link is there down below. The application is open now until January 31st, 2021. The second week of February, we're going to be evaluating all those applications and then selecting the recipient to be announced by February 17th. So for eligibility, pretty simple. You need to be admitted into Harvard Law School, obviously, and you need to be enrolled in a state or federally recognized tribe, or have a parent or grandparent that is enrolled. And then those are going to be two of our required documents. You need to provide us with your admission letter and your proof of tribal enrollment or descendancy. Provide us with a digital photo and a transcript. And I'll show you, I'm going to show you our application real quick, just to show you where you're going to submit all those documents. So yeah, you'll start there at Harvard Law, at collegefund.org/Harvard Law. Go into our student portal, create a login if you haven't already. Build out your profile, and this is where you're going to upload your photo, your tribal enrollment. And then this is something important that I wanted to point out, is that in the college field, you have to put in Harvard Law School. If you put in Harvard University or anything else, it's not going to come up with the right application when you go to the applications tab. So after you complete your profile, submit it, and head to the applications tab, you want to look for this complete Harvard Law School application. If you just see the complete scholarship application, that's going to be for our other full circle opportunities, which you can also apply for, and I recommend that you do. But if you don't see this Harvard Law School application, make sure you go back to the profile and just make sure you've entered Harvard Law School as your school. Once you get into the application, you're going to review all your profile information, go to the next step, which is going to be your program information, and then these 3 essays. And when David mentioned the scoring process, one of the pieces of your application that are really going to be affecting your overall score and the way your application is evaluated is going to be this section here, these 3 essays. And I'll go back to my presentation and show you the actual questions. But then I just wanted to point out that after those 3 essays, this is where you're going to upload your transcript. You submit that. It'll pop up here, show a pending status until the recipient of that scholarship is selected. And in the documents tab is where you can upload your admission letter, or you can email it to me. Either way, it doesn't really matter, as long as you have provided us with that documentation. Let me jump back over here to my presentation to show you the 3 essay questions. So they are: what challenges have you overcome to attend college? What are your educational and career goals, and how will this scholarship help you achieve them? And how will completing your education impact the Native American community? So each of those essays is going to have a 300-word limit, and you can use as much of that as you need to completely and compellingly answer those 3 questions. Is it really a chance for you to tell your story and why you stand out from your peers, and how this opportunity will benefit you and your community. Okay, I just wanted to also point out that on our website, we have scholarship frequently asked questions and application tips available in the for students drop down in the top navigation there. That could also help you as you're filling that. But like I said, any questions at all, you can always email me at dsovey@collegefund.org. My phone number is also there. So that's basically the overview of the process on our end. If there are more questions later on, I'm definitely glad to answer those. But I think that's it from me for now, David. Thanks. You're still muted.
Thank you. If you can stop sharing your screen, we'll move on to our next part. I did want to highlight again what Daniel mentioned, which was even if you are not successful in the award for the American Indian Law Scholarship, our Full Circle Scholarship Program provides many, many, many thousands of scholarships to Native American students in a lot of different areas. We don't have as many opportunities for those who are seeking law degrees, but I would encourage any of you to apply for that program. It runs from the February 1st through the May 31st for applications, and that will be for the following school year. So even though our application period for this particular opportunity ends January 31st, right after that, we will be opening our Full Circle application, and that will of course be for the 2021-2022 school year. So I would encourage you to apply for that regardless of what your specific plans are, because there are a lot of great funding opportunities. Most of them are not renewed, so we have a brand new pool of applicants that we're considering every single year. So I would definitely encourage you to seek that opportunity. So right now, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to speak with our current American Indian Law Scholarship recipient, Chance Fletcher, who has, I think, had a great experience so far, but I wanted to kind of give him a chance to talk a little bit about his experience at Harvard Law so far, what that's been like, and just for him to kind of share a little bit with you guys. And if you have any specific questions for him in the chat, I'll be happy to share that with you too. But Chance, please introduce yourself and tell everybody about your background as well too, and kind of start us off with what your experience has been like the last couple of years.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very happy to be here, and I am happy to answer any questions that anybody has. So there are a couple of different buried questions in there, but I'll start out with saying that I'm from a small town in Oklahoma. Now I believe on the Cherokee Nation reservation in the post-McGirt decision era. You know, my folks are, you know, pretty just normal people. My dad owns a portable restroom company. You know, he sucks poop out of toilets. It's not very glamorous, and you know, we're pretty normal people, I think. So, you know, I just want to say that all of you are taking the right step by coming to things like this, and you know, looking to get great educational opportunities. So I went to Princeton for undergrad, and I studied history there. I decided to go to law school probably around sophomore, junior year. I was like tossing it around, and then I decided for sure senior year. So obviously I have received this enormously generous scholarship here at HLS that has made my time at HLS even more wonderful, because I didn't have to take out $300,000 in loans to go to HLS, which I certainly would have had to do so in the alternative. But at HLS, it's been a really nice time. I mean, I don't think I could ask for more from a law school. I've been extremely intellectually stimulated. The classes are very challenging. It's a very effective place to learn law. There's been multiple professors who've invested their time and energies in mentoring me and working to give me opportunities in the law. It's been really nice. I'm highly involved in about 3 or 4 student organizations, one of which is the Native American Law Students Association at Harvard. That's a really great group. You know, we're small but mighty kind of thing, and we kind of look out for each other, and it's really nice. It's a nice little community that we have here at Harvard. I'm also on the Law Review, which is an academic journal, and I'm currently the president of the Federalist Society, which is sort of the group for conservative and libertarian law students at Harvard. So things have been really great, and things are just getting better. I'm about to graduate. After graduating, I'll be clerking on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And then after that, I don't really know. And I have to say, part of what's so great about the scholarship is that, I'm not forced to immediately take the highest paying job that I possibly can get out of HLS. And I can have a lot of financial freedom, for example, to go clerk, or maybe take government positions or positions at nonprofits. Really, the world is very, very open to me because I don't have $300,000 in law school debt to pay off. And that is just a really, I can't explain how much of a weight off the shoulders that is. I mean, my classmates, many of them have taken out about that amount in loans, and that they're centrally focused on how they're going to pay these loans off in the next 4 or 5 years. And they're going to take whatever job that allows them to do that. And they don't get to think about other things like, where can I best serve, what things can I do that maybe, aren't going to be the highest paying thing out there. What can I do to make the world better, or stuff like that. So it really allows me to be very free with that. And maybe I do go work for one of these law firms, but I don't. The nice thing is that I don't have to, which many of my classmates have to, just financially. It's a big burden. So with that, I think that I've been talking probably a little bit too long, and I'm really happy to answer all of the questions anybody has, or if I didn't talk enough about a certain thing, then I'm really happy to do so.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you have a specific question for Chance about his experience. One of the things I'll go ahead and step in while some of you are thinking of questions. This speaks a lot to what Daniel had mentioned before about the application process and how much importance we put on community engagement and involvement. Chance had been a part of some really amazing projects with Cherokee Nation, and that kind of really made him a standout as an applicant. And he has already decided that he's going to be giving back in some substantial ways with his education and as his career moves forward. Those are the types of things we want to hear about in the applications. We want to know your history. We want to know what things have kind of formed you and made you and drive you, and what you plan to do in your career path. So be sure to share those things in your application. Those are very important. A lot of times even more so than just your GPA or other extracurricular accomplishments that you have. So anyone have a question for Chance? We're not hearing you, Jada. I think you're maybe muted or something.
I think we can't hear Catherine either. I think she tried to say something.
Okay.
Sorry, I stopped because you said Jada, but I can wait. Just let me know.
Okay, you're working, Catherine. So why don't you go first, and Jada can plug in or whatever she needs to do.
Yeah. So hi, Chance. I graduated from Harvard College back in 2017. And so I know that some of the classes that they offer for Native Americans were nation building and more through the Kennedy School. But how are the Native American law, federal Indian law classes at Harvard? What are the offerings like? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. So every year for the past, I believe, 13 years, we've had a visiting professor. His name is Professor Robert Anderson, come teach Indian law here at HLS. And it's really great. It's a great class. It's for 3 credits. You can't take it one out a year because all of your classes are basically predetermined, but I took that class last year and it was really nice. But there's all kinds of things that touch on the issues that come up in litigation over federal Indian law. For example, like you could take federal courts, which is very relevant to federal Indian law litigation. So we have a federal Indian law course taught by a really wonderful professor who I greatly enjoy, who I believe is going to be continuing teaching it going forward, but I'm not sure about that. Maybe the school might know more about that. But that's really the only thing at HLS specifically on point, though.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Catherine. Does anyone else have a question for Chance?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. My name is Jada, and I have a question about the type of classes to take before. I'm currently a student at Dahana Community College. So are there any recommendations of what classes to take before going into anything like law?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hope to dictate to you to what classes that you might want to take, but the types of classes that I think might prepare somebody very well for law school are classes that develop strong analytical reasoning skills. So perhaps, classes that have a lot of writing in them, really developing yourself as a critical writer will help you a lot in law school. So, maybe history and philosophy classes. That's what I did. But, I think that does shortchange it. I mean, there are engineers who came to law school and do very well. One of my best friends at law school had a computer engineering degree, and he's like one of the top students here. He didn't take any really writing classes or anything in undergrad, so it's really you should try to take what interests you and sparks inspiration to learn. So that might be a non-answer, but I hope it was slightly helpful.
Oh no, it wasn't a long answer at all. Like, thanks for saying the word critical, because it kind of makes sense for your friend, the person who majored in engineer and computers and stuff. Seems like being super critical about the words in front of us whenever we study and take the LSAT. Like, I guess it's kind of like those long paragraph worded questions to answer. So thanks for the answer.
And once we introduce Jason too, he'll speak a little bit more about preparation specifically for applying to Harvard Law and some of those things as well too. That'll probably give you some additional insight of SARS prep that you can do.
Awesome.
Anyone else have any other questions for Chance? This is your chance to ask him a question and to learn a little bit more about the Harvard Law experience.
I have another question. Is that okay?
Sure, go for it, Catherine.
Perfect. So Chance, with NAUSA, how siloed would you say it is compared? I know you said it's small but mighty, but how siloed would you say it's compared to the other cultural groups on campus? Are there coalitions? Is there a task force, representation of the dean? How does that go at Harvard Law?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of communication and sometimes coordination with other student affinity groups. And I mean, the dean of students is always sort of heavily involved in these things, and she's a really wonderful woman who I've very much gotten to know and enjoyed getting to know over the past few years. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a place, so everybody knows each other and everybody, chats and things happen.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So last call. Anyone else want to ask Chance a question while we have him on the?
Can I? Sorry.
Go for it.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Hamilton. I am Winnebago and Kickapoo. I don't know if you've already talked about this. Sorry, I'm on another meeting right now as well. But if you could possibly expand on NALSA, like Harvard's role within NALSA, like the national NALSA, and then also Harvard's NALSA and what you guys do as a community. And also, sorry, I have a lot of questions. Could you talk a little bit more about your first year? Because I know people say 1L is extremely hard. Thank you.
Yeah, so there were 3 questions there, and the first was if I'm just saying them, sorry. If I could talk more about NALSA, and if I could talk more about Harvard's NALSA relationship with national NALSA, and if I could talk about 1L. So NALSA, here at Harvard, it's again, it's a small group. I mean, I see it more as like we just sort of like to spend time with each other and get along and like have a group of similar people who can support each other, and the older students look out for the younger students, and I think it's just like a nice positive small group. And the on the national NALSA front, so we always go to the Federal Indian Bar Association conference, and Jason comes with us and feeds us sometimes. And it's a really great time, which is sort of where the national NALSA meets every year. At least in my institutional memory, no one from Harvard has ever ran for national NALSA officers or anything like that. So I think that probably most of us are members of the national NALSA organization, but I don't know if I'm actually not sure. Jason is probably better institutionally equipped to answer this question, because I just know this sort of past 3 years on that. And then the last question was if I could talk about 1L, which to answer your question is I don't think that there's any sense in sugarcoating it. 1L is very challenging and difficult year that you have to learn and apply yourself extremely hard to do well at law school. But at the same time, it's, awesome. You get to learn like the foundation of law. You take all of these extremely substantive classes, and by the end of 1L, like you're going to be thinking like a lawyer. You're going to be able to, make legal arguments. And so the answer is like, yes, it's a ton of work. But it's nice to have, support networks already built into a place like Harvard. I mean, as soon as I got here, the upperclassmen NALSA members all reached out to me and, gave me pointers about how to do things. And now that I'm an upperclassman, I do the same thing for the NALSA students now. And it's just a good little group that we have going on here.
Thank you.
Of course.
These are some great insights. Go ahead, Jenna.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, David. I was wondering about the type of projects that you're doing, Chance, for the Cherokee Nation. I'm enrolled in the Comanche Nation. I was also born in Oklahoma. So I'd like to figure out what to do and how I'd like to serve my tribe and the surrounding community.
Yeah, so I think that the thing that David was probably centrally referencing when he was saying that was the sophomore summer. So the summer after my sophomore year of college, I walked the Trail of Tears, just sort of camped in people's yards and did it, and sort of thought it would be a wonderful opportunity to sort of put that history into personal perspective.
Wow.
And so, which was, it was a really great and meaningful experience. Currently, I'm really not doing anything outside of law school. It is a pretty all-consuming endeavor to do the law school thing. So, no projects with the Cherokee Nation right now, but hopefully in the future, I will get to do some cool things with them. But
Awesome. Any ideas? Like any dreams that you've been thinking of?
well, you know, no, I think that I'm leaving that open to see what things bring. So
Cool. That's cool. Like waiting, like that's really cool. So I don't know, like it really seems that when things kind of fall into place, it's kind of like a push and pull with like willing things to happen and then things just happening. Like it seems like there has to be a balance. Thanks for your answer.
yeah, of course.
And one thing I'll note too, you know, just as Chance was describing all the different groups that he's involved in, the connections that he's making, a lot of those opportunities will kind of make themselves apparent to you. I know that Brittany Whitebird, who's one of our student ambassadors, is on our call today, and she's experienced that, you know, the types of relationships that you make, the people that you meet, you kind of discover ways that you can serve and things that you can do. And I'm sure that there'll be lots of inspiration once Chance actually finishes the hard work of school for him to find some great ways to give that.
Awesome.
Anyone else have any questions for Chance?
I do.
Go for it, Brittany.
Okay, so my question is, would you feel comfortable sharing your LSAT score? And the second part of my question is, do you feel like that coincided with the grades that you're getting? Like, I just want to know what kind of a factor the LSAT score plays on the actual law school experience.
Yeah. So I don't have any problem sharing. I think I got like a 173 or 174. And then as far as like grades in law school, I mean, everybody at Harvard has a pretty good LSAT score, so I'm not necessarily sure that it is very related. Here it's sort of, you know, there's just marginal differences between the scores everybody got. So like I'm not sure that it's related. It might be. I don't know. It's a good question. I'm sure that might be empirical data about that somewhere that I'm unaware of, but
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you.
mm-hmm.
Well, thanks for sharing that personal information, Chance.
It's totally fine. I mean, I don't care. It's long behind me. So.
Anything else you want to share with the group about your experience or about the scholarship before we pass it off to Jason?
No, I mean, just that it's been great. I really like law school, even though it's a lot of working pretty hard. And I mean, it's such a blessing in my life. You know, all thanks be to God that this opportunity was given to me through the American Indian College Fund. But I'd say I'm happy to answer anything else or whatnot, but really thank you all for participating here.
Well, thank you for being here tonight and taking some of that valuable time that you have for studying and completing your time at Harvard Law School. So, and we'll have some time at the end to if anybody has any specific questions for Chance, but let me introduce Jason, who's the community coordinator for the Harvard University Native American program. He is kind of the College Fund's main partner in helping students to kind of navigate what it looks like to apply to Harvard Law and be successful and to find a really great Native contact in that community. So Jason, thank you for your time, and we'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. My name is Jason Pacino. I'm Mandan Hidatsa Rikra, MHA Nation from Fort Berthold, and I'm also from the Pueblos of Jemez and Laguna in New Mexico. I'm the community coordinator at the Harvard University Native American program. We're a program office that sits not in a particular Harvard school, but we sit in what is called central administration. And we're an interfaculty initiative, which does allow us to work throughout the entire Harvard system. So Harvard is comprised of 13 schools. There's our undergraduate college, and then there's our graduate and professional schools. And there's even an extension school as well that is included in all of that. So my work is kind of twofold. I do two jobs mainly here at HUNAP, and that's just how we call our office for short. At HUNAP, I do recruitment and admissions work, and that allows me to be a liaison with every single admissions office on campus. So you're not applying to Harvard, you're applying to the specific school when you apply. So that means I work with the Harvard College admissions, HLS admissions, the Graduate School of Education admissions, so on and so forth. And then the other half, or the other side of my work, is then working with currently enrolled students who are Native or Indigenous. So I work with current students. Sometimes I am a staff advisor for some of our student organizations, or I am a resource for our students to reach out to when it comes to things like maybe professional development, professional counseling, and any other sort of resource that they might need. Our office also sponsors a couple of grants and scholarship programs that we can offer to students that are based on research and also professional development. And overall, just here to act as a resource just for students overall. So one of the things that I do with NALSA is I usually travel with them to the Federal Bar Association's Indian Law Conference, and that's what he's talking about. And so we in supporting our student organizations, we give them money for every semester for them to utilize in any which way they feel necessary. But in addition to that, for like NALSA, we'll help pay for their registration so that they can offset that cost. I would also say that their student's office does give a pretty good, they help pay for their airfare, so that's really good. So, for them, it's very much a very minimal out-of-pocket expense for them. So our office will pay for their registration. I travel there. I usually have a booth at the conference. And then while I'm there, I usually sometimes act as a networking person, and I introduce our current students to our alumni that are at the conference. So hence the free meals. And then other things that I do is also act as just as a liaison for our current students if they will need sort of connections throughout Indian country, especially if it's pertaining to federal Indian law. So I'm actually lucky enough that my spouse, my wife, graduated from the University of New Mexico School of Law with the Indian Law Certificate. So I, before coming to Harvard, was pretty plugged into the Indian law community. So both from her colleagues that she graduated with and just the work that we've done here at Harvard with our alumni, for me going to FedBar, which is what we call it for short, FedBar is a pretty normal thing for me because I've been doing it even before I was here working at Harvard. So I've been here at Harvard for 10 years. So I'm kind of, in some ways, an elephant. So I can remember the things that came before Chance. So in the chat, somebody asked about some of the things that NALSA did. And I mentioned that they won, before Chance was here, they won the National NALSA Chapter of the Year Award. I believe that was 2015, can't remember. And then to go to another point that was offered, what can you do with tribal communities? Before Chance came, we had 2, perhaps even 3 NALSA students who worked with the Navajo Nation, and they worked with their Department of Justice, and they got credit for that. So sometimes that was, and because at the time, Ethel Branch, who is a HLS alum, she was working in that office, heading it up as the Navajo Nation Attorney General. She made a connection to our students made that happen. And so they were able to have some credit go towards their studies by working with Navajo Nation. Other students in past years have also done that. So there's a lot of, it's kind of, the nice thing I like about Harvard Law School is that if you dream it or you want to do it, the law school is pretty well equipped to make it happen. And that's pretty true. And it's a wide network, a well-resourced network that you would become a part of. So not only just on the federal Indian law side, but also just in the national law scene. And as you can tell, like Chance has taken, a great use of all the opportunities that have been available for him. So that's just a little bit about our program. So again, I work basically two sides. I work the recruitment and admissions side, so I can offer and answer some basic questions about the law school application process. And I also work on the student side, so I can offer some insight into what it's like to be a current or future law school applicant or law student. To go back to the earlier point too, before I forget, I do want to say that if you're thinking about what courses to take, I do strongly suggest that you take courses that challenge your writing, because you will write, and then you will write some more, and then you're going to be asked to write some more. And it's not even the amount of writing that you have to do, but it's going to also be the quick turnaround time that you're going to be asked to turn things around. Chance, I see, is laughing. And that's just a general nature. I mean, and that's just not just for Harvard Law School. That's just for like any law school. Like you really need to be adept at writing with a critical eye, being able to, put those fact patterns together and have a compelling argument and statement and have it succinctly in very clear points in your writing. That's what you have to do as a law student. It's what you're going to have to do as a legal professional. And so anything that you can do right now that can really boost that in your sort of like your skill set, that's what you really want to focus on, because it will tremendously help you when you're in that 1L year trying to stay afloat. And being just and reading. I mean, Chance probably has to read. He could tell you how much he has to read in 1 week, and what he reads in 1 week is probably like is what you think you would read in a year. So yeah, it's a lot of reading. So and those are the things that you should do. You should sort of be proactive about in gaining that sort of like law school stamina, reading and writing, and doing it critically, and doing it very well in a short amount of time. So that, yeah, those are the things that you should sort of like kind of keep in mind when you think about courses. If you're still in school, those are sort of the things that you should think about, even if you're out of school, if you're sort of in the postgrad sort of realm, writing articles, submitting them to be published. Those are the type of things that can be really helpful to you in your law school career. So I'm going to just touch upon some very quick points about applying to Harvard Law School, because that is obviously the #1 requirement. If you don't get accepted, you won't be eligible to apply for the scholarship. So the admissions cycle has already began, because the admissions portal usually opens up mid-September through the Law School Admissions Council, LSAC, and you apply through a national portal. And you go and you upload all of your information there, letters of recommendation, test scores, transcripts, and then you select which schools you would like to send that information to. If you select Harvard, Harvard's going to send you a supplemental application for you to fill out as well. And those are the things that you need to turn into Harvard to be considered for admissions. It is rolling admissions. Once you hit submit, your law school application is going to be read. It's going to be read by some admissions officers. It's going to be read by faculty. It's going to be read by alumni who are hired by the law school to read applications. So there's a lot of different people that are going to be reading your application. Some with very close ties to Harvard Law School. Some who might be in an alumni status who are helping out. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's a lot different than undergrad admissions, where it's just an admissions officer reading your application. At the law school, you have faculty who are highly involved in the admissions process. Because we read applications as they come on in, the law school makes decisions pretty much here in the next couple of weeks. So even though you see that there's a February 1st priority deadline, that doesn't mean that we admit everybody close to that February deadline. I would say for what is usually communicated to me, usually about 90% of the class has already been admitted by New Year's Eve. So if you're applying in January to try to hit that February 1st date, it's all those people battling for basically about 100 spots, which is not a lot. And even that, I mean, maybe even just 50 spots. So you could be an outstanding candidate, but there's only a certain limited number of spots, and they might have to just say, you know what, we're going to kick you to the wait list to see if somebody comes on off, or we're just going to not accept you because we just don't have the room. So it's important that if you are going to apply this cycle, that you apply soon if you haven't already. That's something that you should really, really think about doing. Please do not wait until the end. I hear a lot of people who are like, you know what, if I just get through the semester and I do all my work over the break, then I'll apply. And I really would encourage you to shift that thinking to say, like, you need to put in the time now to put in that application so that you can get your application in. Going back to David's point earlier, we're going to start reviewing applications February 8th. So you want to make sure that you're included at the very, very beginning. You don't want to be, sometimes we do get people admitted in April. Sometimes we have people who are even admitted in May. By that time, this scholarship will have been awarded already. So don't leave yourself in that position. And another thing to sort of just also think about too, is that I am a admissions liaison. I'm not an admissions officer. I don't work for Harvard Law School, although I work for Harvard. But I am open to reading personal statements. I am open to reviewing your application. It is not a conflict of interest. So if you do want to contact me, I can go ahead and put my email in the chat, and we can have a separate conversation. And you can usually if you give me about a week, I can go ahead and turn around and give you feedback on your personal statement that you are interested in submitting. And the feedback that I give is, I'm not the grammar police. The feedback that I give is, this is what Harvard eyes are going to see and question when they read your application. They might be confused about your second paragraph. They might really like that third paragraph, so you might want to beef it up or include more details about that. So that's what I can do in terms of, because what I do usually at least once a year is talk to the admissions office and sort of get a bit of a feedback session from them about what they're seeing from candidates and what they want to see from candidates. So it's really something of benefit if you want to take advantage of that. So feel free to email me. We can set up a time to talk, or we can just chat over email. But again, I just want to remind you, like, if you give me about a week, I can go ahead and turn that feedback around. And it doesn't have to be just a one-time thing too. Sometimes I've done 10, not revisions, but 10 feedback sort of reviews of a candidate's essay before. But that's when they started way back in like August. So, so our window is getting really, really short now. So I might not be able to do as many reviews of it as possible, but I think it is a service that I want to make sure that you all know about. So the other thing too that I wanted to mention is that, sorry, I'm just reading the chat, making sure that I'm covering everything. So the other thing is that once you get accepted, then I'm one of the first people that you will reach out to you. If you are accepted, you will probably get an automatic letter that says, oh, hey, look at the scholarship. Just kind of know that and keep that in mind. I doubt any of you are going to forget about the scholarship, but there'll be a little plug for you when you get admitted that, to remind you that, you will possibly be eligible for the scholarship. A couple of questions that I've been getting a lot lately is testing going to be required? And yes, testing is required. There is not a COVID exemption for testing. I know some other law schools and some other schools in general are giving exemptions this year, but Harvard Law School, based on their accreditation and based on how they are involved with the sort of law school community, they are requiring testing for this year. So do keep that in mind. So you're not going to be able to say that, oh, well, because of COVID circumstances, I will be able to apply without testing. We do accept both the LSAT and the GRE. So if you have taken the GRE, you are allowed to submit those scores as well. Another question that I think I've been getting a lot lately is what happens if you don't get selected for the scholarship? And does that affect your admissions chance? And once you've been admitted, you've been admitted. So, so this is a separate application. This is a separate scholarship program. So don't think that if you didn't get selected for the scholarship program, that your law school admissions decision from Harvard Law School has also been denied. No, that's just not the case. It just means that this pot of money has been awarded to somebody else. I do want to add that, you know, this is on a 3-candidate cycle. This is the second cycle. So if some of you are on this call that are not applying this year, that means the next cycle for this scholarship program is going to be in 3 years. And that's just how the donor has set up this initial offering of this scholarship. So if you are thinking ahead in the future, and this is something that you want to apply to, then you would look 3 years out. So I think that's about it. I think some of the other questions too, somebody had a question about the law school community. There is Professor Anderson. He is Fond du Lac. We also have had other visiting professors who have come for just maybe 1 term. Professor Anderson, he is on a contract, and he's had multiple 5-year contracts. So so he's visiting, but he's been a consistent visitor. So he is out of the University of Washington School of Law. He focuses on water rights. And so he does, even though he may not teach a law school class specifically on tribal water rights, he teaches a water class that does heavily involve different things about tribal jurisdiction when it comes to water and resources. Professor Singer is another professor here. He is a non-native, but he is an editor on the Cohen's Handbook. And he teaches, he doesn't really teach, but he holds a reading group every year that discusses certain federal Indian law cases. He's another resource on campus. And then we've had visiting professors. We've had Professor Angela Riley from UCLA. We've had Professor Kristen Carpenter from University of Colorado. So we usually get cycling through at least some other Indian law scholars on campus as well. Let's see, and Ashley, can you submit your application and then take it later? Yes, so to Ashley's question, if you look in the chat, can you submit a later score? You can. If they haven't read it yet. So the thing is that they will, so she's asking, if you have an LSAT score and you just hit submit now, but you take a later LSAT score, can you still submit it if they haven't read it yet? So the one thing about that is that they will read it as soon as you hit submit. So that's the sort of like pro-con analysis that you kind of have to do is like, okay, do I wait for my second score or do I apply now? So, you know, that's something that we can talk offline about. I'm happy to do that, you know, with not just Ashley who asked the question, but anybody else that asked the question. If you have some of those particular questions about, I don't know if I should do A or B, and I'm happy to discuss that based on your sort of your circumstance. And Ashley brings up a good point because I know Ashley. This is the one thing that was floating in my head that I wanted to make sure I reminded myself to say. I was a reader for the first cycle. I will not be a reader this cycle because I know too many of you. I'm like looking at this call and I know half of you. So, so unfortunately, that's too many people for me to have to excuse myself from reading the application. So I will not be one of the scorers. It will be another Harvard person who will be on that. But usually, and David can probably talk a little bit more about this, but what we do have is that you are scored usually by somebody from our office and a couple of other people from the College Fund and also from the sort of the donor's perspective as well. But I will not be reading, so you can't bribe me with any, you know, you can't bribe me with money this time around. Is the scholarship still available for students wishing to pursue a JD or MBA at Harvard? It's still, you just have to be admitted to Harvard Law School, but you do have to enroll this fall. This is not something that we would be able to, and then David can back me up on this, but this is not something that you can defer because you're waiting to get into Harvard Business School. And that's another thing too, is that because of COVID, the law school has been granting some deferrals. But if you wanted to receive this scholarship, you would have to enroll in the fall. You couldn't say, I got admitted to Harvard, but I want to defer. You would not, you would basically take yourself out of the running for this scholarship. So, you know, again, pros and cons to weigh. I'm happy to talk over with you offline. Let's see. If you haven't taken the LSAT yet, just go ahead and go, you know, look at the LSAT website. You can find dates that might be available for you in the near future. Does Harvard look at the most recent LSAT score? We'll look at your highest score. We're not going to look at, they're not going to look at the average. I think that's, I know there are a couple more. I wanted to make sure I got them. Oh, that was Chance. Okay. But yeah, I'm here as a resource. Happy to talk offline. Happy also to just talk about just the Native and Indigenous community here at Harvard. You know, just to kind of give you a little bit of a background, currently this year we have 75 students who are sort of part of our community. That means they are Native and or Indigenous. That means from around the globe. We're a very globally oriented program office. So we have students who are Maori, students who are from the Pacific Islands. We have students who are from obviously First Nations in Canada, and we have students who identify from an Indigenous background, both you know, from Central and South America. We've had students from Bangladesh, Norway, Sami people. So you know, we're pretty globally oriented in terms of our community. At Harvard, the majority of our students are actually graduate students. So that 75 number, that's about a 40, about almost a 40-35 split. Actually, it's probably 45-30. So you do come to Harvard, and you do have a pretty substantial Native and Indigenous graduate student community. So I guess, you want to open up to questions?
Yeah, anybody want to unmute yourself and ask a audio question? Don't be shy. It's just, you know, I know Jason, by the way, I wanted to say is I'm sure you're all very conscientious, but don't be emailing Jason on Christmas Eve asking him to review your personal statement. Probably get your ducks in a row now and approach him in plenty of time before you get to your application deadlines.
And I'll also share this one last tidbit, and it's funny because it's been brought up 2 times, I think, in both separate instances from 2 separate admissions officers. But I'll tell you what a pet peeve is of the admissions office, because you can contact them directly too. You don't have to go through me. You can always contact them directly. But if you ask them a question that you can find on their website, that really irks them, and you don't want to get on their bad side. So like, always make sure you go through the entire website and make sure you know that your question isn't answered on their website. It's just something that I always feel is a best practice. Like, you know, in any organization, you know, if it's, you know, their websites are there for a reason. Make sure you use them.
Any questions for Jason? Well, you did a fantastic job of giving us a good perspective of what's necessary, and it's very generous of you to make yourself available to, you know, these prospective students. So really appreciate that. I would highly recommend you go to the HUNAP website and follow them on social media. They share a lot of the opportunities and posts that we put out there. They're a great resource regardless. One final thing that I will mention to you, I did, of course, talk to you before about the fact that our Full Circle Scholarship will open after the application period for this. But with one of the questions I had about deferment and talking about what your situation is, let's say that you were accepted to Harvard Law and you did not get this incredible opportunity for a fully funded, there are lots of other fantastic financial aid and scholarship resources for you if you're accepted into Harvard Law. So don't feel like that's your only course of action. Also, if your plans change, our staff at College Fund, if you decide to go to a different institution or seek a different degree or something of that nature, and you've already submitted an application, our staff is great about altering your application that you've submitted to maybe be considered for additional opportunities at additional schools. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to us as well too, if your plans change or if you have different circumstances. So I do want to let everybody know that a recording of this session will be available on the main scholarship landing page for our American Indian Law scholarship opportunity. So that's the collegefund.org/Harvard Law. We'll put that up probably by the end of the week. So if there's anything you want to go back and look at, but like I said, always feel free to reach out to our scholarship department. They're great about getting back to you, especially with more limited opportunities like this. And of course, Jason, like I said, has made himself very available to answer some of your questions and be a resource to you as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming to this meeting tonight, and especially for Daniel and Jason and Chance for sharing and making some time in their schedule. Wish everyone best wishes for your plans for the future, and feel free to reach out to us at any time. So thank you very much.